Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Brian, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. Good to have you all. We have actually got a video to cover sort of today, so Mighty Mush has very kindly trimmed up some clips of the Danny Faulkner and some other guy discussion that happened and was taken apart at length on QE's channel yesterday evening. Go on.
Pastor Justin Peterson. He's
Justin
a Christian
Peterson.
pastor.
Justin Peterson. That name rings a bell. Why does that name ring a bell?
Because that's the guy whose show he's on.
No, I mean,
you would have heard of him in recent times.
No, I think it's ringing a bell because we covered him too, didn't we? On his own, did we not?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
A week ago or something.
Yeah. That's why, because it's in the thumbnails I've been scrolling through since I've been uploading videos today. That's why the name's familiar. Yeah, I hadn't paid attention to that when I was dipping in and out of QE's stream yesterday. I was a bit, I don't want to say miffed, but Adam had a lot of good stuff to say in yesterday's Quantum Eraser. What does he call that show? Just QE Live. In the QE Live show yesterday, Adam had a lot of good things to say, and QE kept on cutting him off. It's like, meh, this is going to take a while. And I know he wants to plod through the video. I sometimes get a bit like that. But by the same token, Adam had some really good stuff to say, and I wanted to hear more from him. So I was thinking, when he was doing it, I was thinking, I hope I can get him in that mood on my show tomorrow. And here we are, covering the same thing, but in a slightly more concise manner. That's not to knock QE. You know, we don't train to time here. But by the same token, as I say, Mush has done us the honour of cutting it up into sections that we can digest easily and hopefully cover in one live show. So there we go. We'll do a bit of housekeeping in the meantime, if that's okay by everyone else. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
What did Danny say yesterday? That was a joke.
He said that he answers questions that are put to him. And that's not true. He sits in our VC and we've called out to him while he's in a voice chat. Listening. Always listening.
Well, I think he said something about... He said... Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
Essentially, what he did was he answered a question he wasn't asked. And he answered a question he wasn't asked by asking a question. So he answered a question he wasn't asked by asking a question. What's a vacuum, he said. Well, Danny, that's clearly defined. And there's different levels of vacuum. But vacuums are clearly defined and they require a container. So can you have gas pressure without a container, Danny? Because that's the question you originally asked by Nathan Thompson. And that's the question everyone wants you to answer. Because that's the question you didn't answer. You sat there and didn't answer. So if you're here now, Danny57 in Discord, why don't you pipe up and answer?
No, he's not.
Didn't he say something to the fact that he has the answer, but he wasn't going to give it to him? He said something along those lines.
We've heard it all
before.
He
doesn't have any answer. Go on, Nick.
Well, I was just going to say we've heard it all before. So we've had the subversion of the question in excess of 100 times with Conspiracy Cats. More than that if you include Tommy's renditions of the same question live. You know, 120 plus renditions of how can you have gas pressure without a container. And the responses we get are, no, we need to redefine what we're talking about. Or do you mean this question? No, that's not what we mean. We mean how can you have gas pressure without a container? because that is the system that the heliocentric worldview is based on. You, stuck to a ball, breathing gas pressure, with it not dispersing into the sky vacuum, in violation of natural law. Hence, we ask that question. Now, when it was put to Danny Faulkner by Nathan Thompson, at the behest of Sleeping Warrior, who specifically asked him to ask that question if he saw Danny Faulkner, because he was currently chasing him around the block. That's Sleeping Warrior was at the time. So when he put it to him in person and got a completely blank response, no answer whatsoever, it just ultimately makes him a liar when he goes on other people's shows or has discussions and says, I'm just around to answer flat earthers' questions that they can't answer, or any of those similar sentiments that just simply aren't true. You can't answer these questions. There is no answer to having gas pressure without a container. You can't have gas pressure without a container. In spite of his 120 renditions of the question, Conspiracy Cat still, yielded us a nice little quote. Without the container, there can be no pressure.
Yeah, but there might be a difference between pressurized gas, Nathan. Don't forget about that.
Oh, right. That was one of the subversions from Conspiracy Cats. Yeah, we've heard it all. Or here's a container to show you can have gas pressure without a container. Or here's 2 containers to show you can have gas pressure without a container. And so on.
3 containers, actually, Blue Marble Science. 3 containers.
Oh, well, that's someone else. I mean, Blue Marble Science, 3 containers. Because that'll show gas pressure without a container. No, you can't. The whole worldview's fake. There is no space. I actually have released a couple of videos on this in the last 24 hours for members, and they'll be staggered out. I mean, I'm not in any desperate... I said this before when some guy was levelling at me that the channel wasn't growing. I'm like, yeah, it is. I keep an eye on the stats, and you'll know when I'm not, because I'll put out loads of short videos. Well, this isn't the instance where I need to put out loads of short videos. I'm staggering the release of them, and they're currently members only. So if you would like to see some of my hard work and edited videos that will eventually get released to the public, when there's a gap and an appropriate time, rather than piling them all out to make the views up, which I don't need to do at the moment. But I am still working on good stuff when it comes to me, and the politics server, I don't know if you'll agree, was very good in terms of the material it yielded. So that's getting chopped up into chunks and put out. And like I say, I'll release them at my leisure to the public, but you can see them now. I put them out immediately as soon as I'm done with them. They just go to members. And then, like I say, pick out a time when there's not maybe an after show going and put them out then. I did actually release one yesterday as well, because there wasn't an after show, because of QE show, so to have less overlap. But to keep the time slot, I still released something at 9 o'clock, which was one of those videos which I edited a couple of weeks ago. But the ones I've been doing more recently are the ones from the politics Discord server discussion, which is 2071, I believe. Uncut and after show have both been released, as is obviously the live show, which was out and stayed out. So if you want to check out the sort of entirety, it was about 4 hours long, a bit like this discussion that we'll be looking at. So it's quite a chunk to take in if you want to hear all the discussions and debates. And I accidentally left out a chunk by not starting the recording going. I've done it today, haven't I? Yeah, I have, thank God. So there was a bit missing in the after show, and you're like, it's a bit of a mess. So I thought, well, if I just edit it into nice little bite-sized chunks, and then filter them out to the public, they'll get the love and appreciation they deserve, hopefully. And I've also done a couple of shorts videos, which I tend to bosh out onto TikTok and then put that onto YouTube as a copy, if you know what I mean. So one of those has come out today. I just want to keep people up to date with the videos if you want to check them out. Sorry, I've got completely sidetracked because we were talking about Danny Faulkner. But yeah, we're going to go through these. So does anybody want to add anything else about Danny Faulkner before we do?
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't use the Bible.
Yeah, that did stick out like a sore thumb while I was watching yesterday. And I think, again, Adam did highlight that. It's like, when are we going to get to the actual biblical references? When are we going to get to you using the Bible as opposed to how flat earthers behave, or what you are and how creditable you are, or noteworthy you are as an individual? That took hours. I mean, admittedly, it was probably only 25 minutes of the video, but you're like, when are you going to get to the Bible? If you're a biblical pseudoscientist astronomer, then get to your Bible quickly. But there we go, it didn't. Not in the bit that I watched on QE stream, at least.
He said that he wouldn't answer Nathan Thompson at the time. He didn't mention Nathan Thompson by name. He said he wasn't a very nice chap or some nonsense like that. It's just like I'm making. Everyone saw on the video you were asked a direct question, Danny, and you refused to ask the question. Refused to answer the question. I mean, it's nothing to do with whether someone is nice or not. It's like you're asked a direct question, you claim to know all the answers, and you're asked a direct question in public, and nothing. That's what happened.
But look who he did talk to. He talked to Cammy. He talked to Bob Nodell. He talked to David Scheiss. I mean, come on.
What he's saying is he talked to the low-hanging fruit, easy targets, people who peddle nonsense. Yeah, which
That's
you could
correct.
glean from them. But when it came to answering a question, direct question that had come essentially from us, indirectly because it's from Nathan Thompson, but at the behest of Anthony Riley, he's been asked to ask that specific individual, how do you have gas pressure without a container? And he did. He managed to get him sat down and ask him the question. And did he get a good response? He got complete silence out of Danny Faulkner. Nathan Thompson, that is. Poor show. I'm trying to look for the clip, actually, while I'm doing this. Can you guys chat amongst yourself and I'll dig out the clip? I don't tend to do these things on the fly. I've already got him lined up. Or maybe we should start reacting to his video rather than me digging out him just sitting in silence and being asked, how can you have gas pressure without a container? Oh, nobody's going to help me out. I'll carry on with these videos then. We'll start here.
Yeah, run a video.
You mean why he didn't answer the question clip? I
Yeah.
have the clip. Do you want it?
Yeah. If you've got it to hand, I was looking through
Yeah.
my videos because I've
Yeah.
used it multiple times.
It's already there. It's in a. Okay.
Okay, let's go to this.
Times. There was one time I famously refused to answer the question because the person asking me, I didn't like his attitude at all. It's out there on the internet. People want to go see it. I won't tell you who it was. You can figure that out. And so people concluded, oh, he couldn't answer the question. Well, yes, I could. I just, number one, I didn't want to. And number two, the reason why I didn't want to is because he wasn't going to listen. He just wanted a soundbite. So I didn't want to give him one.
And they probably thought your refusal to answer was your inability to answer, right?
That's very poor reasoning, isn't it?
Yes.
I think the reason.
So does he answer?
Is if Danny can't answer the question, then Danny won't answer the question. Danny didn't answer the question. Well, that is classic affirming the consequent, folks. Something that
No. We just need an answer. How can you have gas pressure without a container?
flat earthers supposedly know all.
You can't. Outer space is fake, Danny. That was the point. So you telling the audience about the whys and wherefores of answering the question rather than just answering it, basically, is what you're doing. Subversion.
All about. There are many reasons why I might refuse to answer. There were several.
Oh, right. Let's worry about the reasons why you wouldn't answer. Yeah, you wouldn't answer. Okay, let's start from an earlier point in the discussion.
Pressure. By the way, a vacuum, properly understood, is simply a region of lower pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure. By the way, a vacuum.
Okay, yeah. If you want to describe it that way, that's fine by me. In that description, NASA described the vacuum as starting from sea level. Yeah, so what? Go on.
No, a vacuum is a vacuum. Yeah, it's lower pressure, but there's a particular pressure that there's a particular pressure that becomes a low grade vacuum. Do you know what I mean? It's clearly defined what a vacuum is. As in, it's like 14.7 pounds per square inch, like 760 torr. That's not a vacuum. Do you know what I mean? It's defined. You know, when the vacuum, when pressure gets to what is called a vacuum, it's clearly defined. There's a particular pressure. I don't have the chart in front of me now, but I do have the chart on my computer. It starts with
agree.
a low grade vacuum
No, I
and there's different
understand.
grades up to extreme high vacuum.
I agree. They give them arbitrary names, low, medium, high, etc. Right? They've got arbitrary names for certain values in Tor for what they consider for a vacuum. I don't know who they is. But NASA, when describing heliocentrism, arbitrarily ascribed the vacuum of space to start at sea level. Now, there's two ironies in that.
I understand that because they're claiming that there is a pressure gradient starting at sea level, right, which is the Earth, up and off out to become 10 to the minus 17 torr.
Correct, precisely.
That's what they have to claim.
And
and there is 14.7 pounds
No.
per square inch of pressure.
No. And it starts at sea level.
Oh, right, yeah, well, that one, yeah, fair enough.
Well, the vacuum part isn't the issue, though, because the pressure differential isn't the question. We don't ask how you can have a pressure differential in a container. We ask how you can have pressure without a container.
Yeah, you're pointing out their typical numpty appeal to delta X. Well, the question isn't how we can have gas pressure without a container. It's how we can have a gas pressure gradient. How do you, with burden of proof reversal fallacy in tow, flat earther, have a gas pressure gradient? What? You still can't have gas pressure gradients without containment. First gas pressure comes from the containment by pressing on the walls and developing pressure. And then you can develop complex systems like pressure with gradation because of dynamic systems in circulation. But that's got nothing to do with the pressure that must be attained in the first instance. Their half-witted appeal to delta X has never ended. They've always done it. No, the question isn't gas pressure. The question is gas pressure gradient. Yeah, you still need gas pressure for a gas pressure gradient. How do you have it without containment? You don't.
You don't. Let me ask a question, because it was going in and out on me, so I was catching some of it, but a lot of it I didn't get. So if this guy, Justin Peters, whatever his name is, was any type of real guy, he would have said, okay, Danny, I understand. Maybe he had a bad attitude. So for my audience, how can you have gas pressure without a containment? Did that ever come out? Did he ever say that?
You've
Did
asked
he
the
ever
question.
ask Danny Faulkner?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, in a more concise way, asking Mush. Like, did he answer the question? No, I don't think he
Yeah,
did, or we
just
would have a clip of it.
yes, there is. There's a video clip in there called there's just play the clip that's right
We'll
in the
get to
Skype.
it. Okay, we'll play it in order. So
No, but like the order is not right. Like I messed up a little bit. So just play the video that's in the Skype right now, the last vid. That's gonna follow up the why he didn't answer the question.
Let's see. There must be some force pulling that air down. Now, I'm not going to.
No way! No way! Gas go down, go boom boom. There must be some force making gas go down, go boom boom, go splash splash. Because that's what gas does it, Danny? Does gas go down, go boom boom? This is going to get trimmed out. Let's play that again. Go on, Brian. We'll play it again after your comment.
No, that's not answering how do you have gas pressure without a container. That's just claiming some kind of a force without saying it. And with a pre-assumption of a downward falling gas molecules. That's not gas pressure without a container. That's not what he was asked.
Let's see. There must be some force pulling that air down.
Yeah, gas doesn't go down, Danny. It expands in all directions. I don't know why you're grinning, numpty. Yeah? Gas go down, go boom boom? No, you're as dumb as Clown Shoes Thunderfoot, who said that gas go down like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. Now, gas doesn't behave like that way, lads. And in spite of it not behaving that way, you've got to then ascribe a force to describe a behaviour that doesn't occur. Gas expands in all directions. It's called entropic law. A law of nature, as opposed to your fundamentalist religious sky vacuum belief that in order to maintain, you have to have gas falling down. Where'd you get down from? On a ball, Danny? Like, there must be a force making gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank? Now, there is no down on a ball. You need a flat plane for that.
Now, I'm not going to
It's
identify
not
that
part of
force
the
for
gas
you.
definition.
Pardon?
Gas pressure definition, it requires a container. It's the force that the gas exerts on the walls of the container. That's from NASA.
Yeah,
You should
absolutely.
know that.
Yeah, outer space is fake. If the sky was a vacuum, gas would fill it. We'd never have developed gas pressure.
You can figure that out. Well, you can call whatever you want, but there obviously is some force pulling down on the air, even in the room I'm sitting in and the room you're sitting in. And once you get your head wrapped around that, then the question kind of answers itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, because often Danny farts and they pool beneath his feet. That's what gas does. It goes down. There's a gas force pulling his farts down to the ground. That's what you experience, isn't it, Danny? Yeah, puddles of farts. They don't expand into your house, letting everyone know how dirty and stinky and disgusting you are. No, they don't do that. They go down. There must be a force pulling your gases down, right, Danny? This smug git thinks so. Yeah, he thinks you get puddles of farts. No, that's not how gases behave, Danny. No. No, they disperse throughout the gaps in the other gases in all directions. They dissipate. It's a law of nature. It's called entropic law. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, didn't I, Danny? Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. Quite the contrary, in fact, Danny. If you had the slightest idea how gas actually behaves, you'd be acutely aware that the gas cycles start at ground level. That's where the gas is produced. There's no sky factories producing gas, Danny, pouring it in like bouncy balls into a fish tank by a clown called Thunderfoot. No, the gases are produced at ground level, Danny, and they make their way up as they expand in all directions. Now, cyclically, water vapour condenses and becomes rain and comes back down as rain that's liquid. That's not gas. But to come back down, because it went up, Danny, the gases went up. Yeah, they went up from ground level. Yeah, they're not being poured in from factories in the sky. They're not going down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. They're not in line with Thunderfoot Clown Shoe's assertion that gas behaves like bouncy balls. No, there mustn't be a force to get gas to behave like it doesn't behave, Danny. That's utterly absurd. But I'm glad you finally answered Nathan Thompson's question, put to you at the behest of Sleeping Warrior. Because now we know why you didn't answer. Because your answer was a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Furthermore, it made an assertion that gas goes down, go boom, boom. It doesn't, Danny. I hope we've cleared that up. We would have cleared it up in person when you were in the VC and we called you out. You didn't respond then either, did you, Danny? But that wasn't because of your inability to answer why gas wouldn't fill space without containment. No, because you had the answer all along, didn't you? Gas go down, go boom, boom. That was the answer all along.
Nathan,
See why.
hold on. Was he appealing to the already, the gas pressure that he already has in the room? Is that what he's talking about? Because you need containment for that to even have the air that you're breathing in the room that he's talking about.
I don't know what he's appealing to. He's appealing to gas go down, go boom, boom, Neil. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, within his own paradigm, he's denying Albert Einstein and the theory of the colloquial theory of general relativity. He's also denying Newton's Principia Mathematica and several other things within his own paradigm. He's also denying the current standing within his own paradigm that the gas pressure gradient has absolutely nothing to do with whatever they want to call gravity. But outside of that, what he's denying is the second law of thermodynamics. He's denying the first law of thermodynamics and the third law of thermodynamics. I can't remember the nth law again to know if he's denying that. But he's also denying convection, and he's denying the
hydrological cycle.
The hydrological cycle, and all the gas cycles, obviously. But he's denying diffusion. The diffusion of gas.
Second law of
He's completely denying that. So there are all the things he's completely denying.
Yeah, dispersion. Diffusion.
He's also denying the globe because down is a respect to a flat plane, not a globe.
Absolutely. The pressure gradients will be described from sea level. That's correct. Right, should we do a bit more?
Yes.
I think we're at this one.
And he says, they take a screenshot of this photo and saying, see, we see too far, therefore the Earth can't be a sphere, it must be.
Liar. Liar. That's what we say, do we, Danny? You put up an image of the black swan and then you start to regurgitate what we say, and it isn't. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Distance to horizon in black swan beyond the limitations of the geometry at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Therefore, the horizon's not Earth curve. Earth is not a sphere. Now, that is the argument that goes alongside that image. We call it the black swan to pay homage to Karl Popper, with the assertion that if all swans were white, you would only need to show one black swan to debunk that notion. If the horizon is Earth curve, you only need to show that it isn't Earth curve once to debunk the notion that there's a hill getting in the way, called Earth curve. That's what the black swan does. That's the argument. Danny just lied. What they say is, we see too far. Nobody said we see too far. That's a globe assertion. We say the distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, because that's what your math says the hill called Earth curve will be. What a complete scumbag Danny is.
Be flat.
Yeah, but
Well,
look,
if you watch
look at the people he's talking to. They
Christians.
say we see too far.
He's talking to
David
Christians.
Scheiss says we see too far.
Talking to Christians. He's offering
I'm
an
still, yeah.
explanation for what we say when putting up the black swan image. There is a set in stone what we say, in quotes, when it comes to that image. And we, when told that it's based on the refracted cranes, point out that's not what we say about this image. Our argument is about the horizon, because the horizon is claimed to be a hill getting in the way called Earth curve. Now, that is us taking your claim you make and pointing out where your Earth curve should be in the way, according to your maths, and isn't. That's the argument. So to say we see too far, what? So there should be a limit? No, that's your claim that there should be a limit, Danny. It's called Earth curve. So too far compared to the limit of Earth curve is you and your claim, not what we say. What we say is, if the Earth was a sphere, your claim, then every distance to horizon measurement can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Your claim in Earth curve maths. That's what we say. Then we show how that ain't the case. The maths doesn't match the picture if we've got an Earth curve hill in the way. We haven't. So if you're going to tell people what we say, at least repeat the modus tollens, logical consistency, that had work put into it by a man called Quantum Eraser. He put the work in to give you what we say. It's a logical consistency argument. Go ahead, my outrage is done.
Have you heard any baller correctly repeat the black swan yet?
I'm not going to stereotype him, but he said what they say, in quote. No. That is not what we say. I don't care if other ballers can't manage it. This man's supposed to be a man of God. You can, at the very least, if you're going to, quote, say what someone says, not lie about what they say. This is just a lie. It was carefully worked out, phrased, scrutinised, and then published on the 1st of January 2020, very specifically, so we could all remember the date. Now, that doesn't mean that we wishy-washy came up with what Danny has said we say too far. No, those words aren't in the modus tollens. They're part of your claim that has a limitation called Earth curve, though, Danny. And if you actually even paraphrase back the argument with the logical consistency in tow, I wouldn't be shouting at you and calling you a liar.
Well, what I'm thinking is, I don't think he's capable of comprehending the modus tollens. I don't think any of them are. I've never heard one of them repeat it in 4 years. And look at the picture.
There was
one. I've never heard it. There was one?
Repeated. There was one that repeated it. Exactly.
Yeah. I know who that is.
There was.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Go on, you're going to take the glory and I know who it is.
I can't remember.
Mr. Sensible. Mr. Sensible. He was forced to give a rendition of it by Mitchell from Australia. And upon giving the rendition verbatim, he said, well, at best you've debunked the radius of the Earth.
Yes, that was him.
Well, that's bad. That's not what a baller should say. At best, you debunk the radius. Well, the Earth doesn't have a radius. What are you talking about?
Well, then everything goes haywire from then on, right?
Yeah, it
The
must.
globe
You
doesn't
can't
have
make
radius.
it bigger.
No, it must back calculate, which Brian was hopefully about to launch into. It's set in stone. The R value can't be debunked for them to have a sphere. It must be 3959. Why? So it back calculates into Polaris's angle calculations of a flat plane. Right, Brian?
Yeah, because it all starts and ends with Polaris. That's why when it comes to Polaris and angles to Polaris, they can't go from use the center of their globe. They must be referencing the surface of their globe because that's the origin of their globe, which means that they must be taking angles between the visible sea horizon and Polaris. And that means that the visible sea horizon has to be their physical, geometric, tangible globe edge, but it's not. But they still have to do that. But it all comes from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. Just take any two longitude lines. Each one will be 10,800 nautical miles in length, and make them meet at the south ends, and there's your globe. Just a circle hijacking. Remember I did circle hijacking before?
Yep.
That's all it is. Hijacking of a circle.
Yep.
Via longitude lines.
We give them a tacit acceptance, and it's hard for them to repeat it.
Yeah, we give them their own claim back, and it's hard for them to repeat it because we've given them, as John puts it, a tacit acceptance. That is to say, we state their claim in the P statement of the modus tollens logical consistency. That's what we say, Danny. Notice I can summarise sections of the statements we give alongside that image as the P statement. If Earth's a sphere radius 3959 miles, every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Yeah, that's if P, then Q. We can summarise the actual consistency of the argument. Now, when we put that to globe-believing numpties, they tell us that our repetition / tacit acceptance is a straw man. They can't even bear to hear their own claim parroted back to them. Freaks them out, right, John?
Yeah, that was my point. Is that might be why he's in his mind interpreting it that way? Because look what happened when Mr. Sensible was held to task. He debunked the radius. He stated that.
Yeah, he gave the conclusion.
Well, the problem with a lot of these people is they actually, some of them are trolling now as well. Now, I do think Danny Faulkner is a troll.
No.
Well, I think he is, considering these answers that he's giving. Like when he said there must be a force concerning gas pressure without a container. That is a way of looking for somebody to start having.
I just got to stop you. I just don't want you
gravity.
to continue in that vein. You can continue with whatever you've got to say. That's fine. But no, this is a real person with a real reputation and a real name. I'm not going to have you call him a troll. No.
It doesn't matter what he is. I know
it
what
does when
he
you're
is.
calling him a troll.
He's a troll.
But let's move on.
I'm saying he's trolling us. Yeah, I'm saying he's
trolling is different. Saying he's a troll is different to saying he's trolling when he does a certain action. I'm sorry to be pedantic.
Well, whichever. It doesn't
just got a
matter.
standard.
Him trolling.
I just want to justify myself, and then we'll move on. 2 seconds.
That doesn't raise him in my estimation of him as a person, right? It's irrelevant, to be honest with you. But I'm after going off the point I was trying to make.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, because you're the way you focused on that. It's not the why you focus on that. But he when he says things like there must be a force, what that is him trying to annoy one of us to start arguing with him about gravity. That way he doesn't have to prove gas pressure without a container. Things like that. But what he did last night is not last night, but on QE Live, they were showing it. They were showing it that he brought up that other photograph. The other photograph that BLMSB 69 took 3 or 4 days beforehand, and the horizon was in front of the second oil rig. But it's like they don't understand. Most of these people, just like Mr. Sensible, didn't understand. There's no point in admitting that you've debunked the radius, thinking the globe could be a bit bigger or a bit smaller or whatever rubbish. Just like Danny doesn't understand that within their paradigm, the horizon is a consistently refracted position. So that means the only actual black swan would be a globe's geometric edge. That's the real black swan.
Yeah.
Because what they try and call a white swan is what we're calling a black swan. Because every horizon ever is claimed to be consistently refracted at different degrees of refraction from hour to hour. They're mathematical refraction, not real refraction.
Right.
But this is what they're claiming.
No,
So he
exactly.
doesn't know what he's talking about.
You're obviously, it's going to get confusing if we do this too often, but you're repositioning a new logical consistency, and that logical consistency would be to say that their actual claim, in spite of us right up until 2020, 1st Jan, arguing about Earth curve hills getting in the way of boats and buildings, they just never knew that in reality their horizon's always refracted. Therefore, well, what's a white swan? If you're going to say that by comparison to Karl Popper, in the juxtaposition, all swans are white, well, what are all horizons? Well, all horizons are refracted positions. Okay, so therefore, to disprove that horizons are always refracted positions in the globe model, what do you need? Well, it's a paradox, because at that point, you need the geometric horizon. What is it? No Atmo day? Therefore, in Brian's new Karl Popper comparison, would have been better with someone else, but that's fine. Then all white swans are refracted horizons. It's like you just didn't know it. But that means that, well, your explanation for what the effect we call the horizon is no longer a hill called Earth curve then. And I think you even summarized it before we went live, where, well, what is it? You're not saying it's Earth curve anymore then. What is it? It's the weather, it's refraction, it's anything but Earth curve. Because when we've paraphrased back to them, given them the tacit acceptance that John was explaining, they suddenly they're shying away from their own claim, which is that, yeah, there's a hill getting in the way called Earth curve, it's the horizon. That's their claim. They just don't want to make it anymore because of the black swan. We've debunked it. So they don't want to make the claim, but they can't bring themselves to actually admit that. They'd rather admit, oh no, these flat earthers don't understand refracted horizons, not hills anymore. Not Earth curve, weather and refraction. They're not understanding it, stupid flat earthers, how it's not a Earth curve hill anymore. What are they, dumbos? They should appreciate how it's not Earth curve anymore. Like, you idiots. For 4 years, we've been telling you the moment you say refraction, it annihilates your geometric calculations for a sphere Earth. You can't get them anymore. You'd have to get a black swan. That would be a no Atmo day, geometric position, tangent. You're never going to get it. You can't get it in your own paradigm the moment you say refraction. You're just too dumb to see it. But you'll tell us we're too dumb to recognise our refraction somehow mends this problem. Like, no, lads, 4 years. Go on, Brian.
Yeah, what I would say is that what I'm actually saying, like, I know I'm using the term refracted horizon, but that's a load of rubbish. That's just mathematical refraction made up by them to make up for the fact that they don't have a physical geometric globe edge at the horizon. What I'm saying is that every horizon is not Earth curve. So a black swan would be one that is. So I'm not even using the term. I know I've used the term refracted horizon just to explain it or to describe it, but there's no such thing as a refracted horizon. So every horizon is not Earth curve. So the only black swan would be one that is. That's what I'm saying.
Sure. But now that we've summarised it, because you've said it a few times, it's almost like I'm giving you an order and I'm not. If I could beg that you don't make that comparison too many times, now that this black swan with Modus Tollens and Karl Popper's black swan analogy in tow 4, what we call the black swan, right? Ideally, it will get convoluted if you now juxtapose.
I'll have to come at it differently then.
Yeah, it's a great. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't want to decry it in any way, because that in and of itself, if it was self-contained, was a great discussion and 100% correct and faultless and flawless in logic. But I'm just saying, because that's already taken. It's already taken by Karl Popper.
I understand. It's actually more correct, right? But within the argument, it would be confusing. So it's just more of a case of every horizon is claimed by them to be not Earth curve. So
yeah.
So they have.
I'm glad you said that, because it gives me the segue.
Yeah.
Just there was one person who knew that, and therefore got branded a liar as a consequence when he argued for several years with us about how the Earth curve edge blocked. I'll give it away if I say what it was blocking: boats and buildings and land and such. Well, that one individual, when the black swan came out, repositioned his argument that let us know there was an acceptance and an understanding that all horizons are always refracted without exception in all circumstances. But if you need to claim that a Earth curve hill's blocking something in the distance, obviously it's best if you just ignore that fact, right? Now, after looking back through some of the history of our discussions with this particular individual, there was like a 2-second section of our show while we were all sharing screens, and this individual happened to put up Andrew Thomas Young's refracted horizon mathematics for a split second, long before we were aware of it. In other words, he was arguing the entire time for a physical geometric sphere edge blocking a boat or building or land in the distance, whilst knowing all horizons are refracted in the globe model. That would be to say that he had to lie. And when he was cornered, he carried on lying. And as a consequence, that would be one of the few instances, there's maybe half a dozen people over the 6 or whatever years we've been doing this show, that have actually been banned for lies as opposed to disgusting behaviour, that are so egregious. You know, when, does anyone know who the individual I'm talking about is? Rumpus, right. He knew all along
Right,
what Brian's just said. Go ahead, whoever that was.
You know why they claimed the Earth curve mathematics? Because it was claimed to be a measurement. And a measurement in a what is topic is, you know, kind of the top dog. When they refracted that, they threw their measurement away. And
Precisely.
they just carried on.
Exactly.
Why?
Well, that's why, because you can either accept the awful truth or carry on regardless. And then when you carry on regardless, you've got to subvert the argument. Then it becomes about refracted cranes. And then refraction is acceptable in their mind's eye as an explanation that, as you've just pointed out, undermines the entire premise of their claim.
Right, but you're not claiming to be measuring refraction. You don't measure refraction. You're supposed to measure physicality.
Yeah, and like you say, it's very powerful to suggest that the maths has got a measurement attached, and then when you utilize Al-Biruni's dip, and you've got a dip that's similar in the mathematics. In fact, it's the same. It's the derivation of eye level to surface level for Al-Biruni and the maths, right? Well, that means you can tie the two together as being a measurement. Al-Biruni's measured the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Here's his geometry. Here's the triangle to the centre of Earth. That's how it's done. It's like, okay, so we've got physical geometry to measure, and Al-Biruni's measured it. Here it is before your very eyes, with the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator showing where Earth curve blocks this boat and building in the distance. Yeah, and then you get into your 6-foot man will see the horizon that's Earth curve, etc., etc. It's very powerful. Suggests there's a measurement of Earth curve maths, right? No, there isn't. The Earth curve maths uses a flat plane, surface level, and eye level, parallel with it, to derive a point below surface level, that's flat, and call it Earth curve. When in reality, even when you utilize that mathematics, you have to refract everything, including the horizon, as much as is, or as little as is needed to make it what it appears to be in reality, flat. So you've got a fudge factor with refraction, which worked as you seesawed the things behind the horizon, Earth curve, the thing you were trying to prove in the maths. The moment you refract the horizon, you've no longer got a geometric point to measure. It annihilates the maths. The black swan destroys their assertion in the Earth curve maths. It was the last nail in the coffin after we'd learnt it inside out and back to front through the Isle of Man discussions. Then we put it to bed, killed it, and put the last nail in with the black swan, because you haven't got a geometric point to claim, and all of the maths is based on it. Further to that, the R value in the maths that we used to ask, where'd you get your R value for your begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths, they got their R value from a measurement of Polaris on a flat plane. We now know where they got it from. Flat Earth. That's where.
I remember the first person, just 1 second, very quick, John. I remember the first person to bring up Al-Biruni, right, on the ball side on this show, years and years and years ago. And the person, he's also the very person who kept bringing up Al-Biruni over the years, right up until December 2019.
This is Rumpus.
And that guy is rumpus.
Yeah, same guy.
That means he was promoting a real measurement based off an actual geometric point when he knew that within that paradigm, that horizon was claimed to every horizon is claimed to always be consistently refracted.
Yeah.
Sorry, John, off you go.
Not only that means that a few things, though, doesn't it? It means that he knew not only at a subconscious level, he actively knew and had to work against the facts that worked against his argument and lie overtly about those facts that worked against his argument in order to keep his argument of a measurement that wasn't possible based on his understanding of refracted horizons. So he had to intentionally go out of his way to deceive. I mean, that is the standard of lying, but that's what he did. But in such an egregious way, it got him banned because we cornered him and pointed out those inconsistencies, pointed out how it would have to mean he was lying, and he did. He just lied there and then on the spot. So it's like, okay, if you're prepared to lie to our face,
I think you should play it.
I haven't got it to hand. 93 people watching though. I'd rather keep the discussion going. I mean, I want to give props to Danny. He's developed all these conversations through his lies about what we say.
Well, I would like to resurrect the mathematics as the flat Earth resolution loss curve calculator.
Yeah,
we'll start calling it that because it's not an Earth curve calculator. They just erase some of the words from it, you know.
And it didn't start off as an Earth curve calculator. It started off as a resolution loss calculation for mariners. Do you remember when 10th Man showed it us in that book from about 1820 or whatever it was?
Yeah, the offing. They're talking about the offing.
Yeah, the offing. Exactly. The offing was the distance, and the offing was the physical geometric limitation relabeled as Earth curve. And you could calculate it. They clearly, in timeline terms, found this reference to the horizon and the maths therein and just relabeled it. That's what psychopaths do. They recycle. So yeah, that's what it was originally for mariners. So they could better utilize the tool that levels the plane for their measurements of angles to stars. So they could better understand that phenomena we call the horizon.
Yeah, there was never a geometric Earth curve in the original calculation. That's why I said we should resurrect it as the flat Earth resolution loss curve calculator. You know, just add those 3 words back into it, and that should trigger them nice and good.
Yeah, point out the origins of where these maths come from. The maths for an Earth curve come from a flat Earth measurement. That's how everything that we measure is dealt with, and there's a reason why they have to reverse engineer measurements of a flat plane through translation onto a projected globe back onto a flat map, because that's how it actually functions. Should we do a few more clips? There's several that Mush has done, and I know we're ticking along in the live show time.
Absolutely.
That, then the question kind of answers itself, doesn't
Right.
it? Let's see, there must be some force pulling that air down. Now, I'm not.
Is this the same clip? Have we already done that one? I think you gave this that at the end because it was out of order.
They went over that donut part for the most part. So they very quickly, remember, they launched to the moon. They take off at 25,000 miles per hour. So you're not spending a lot of time in it. Also, they didn't go straight to the moon. Here's the Earth. The moon's over here. Instead of going straight to the moon, they went up like this. And
well, like gas does from the ground, like up. Like gas does, yeah? So does the gas do this too? Or is it just rockets that can do this, Danny? I mean, from what I'm hearing, you're describing a rocket going up. That's direction with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. Just so you know, you need a flat Earth for your explanation mathematically. Nevertheless, the rocket goes up, yeah? And gas what? Doesn't? I mean, the gas definitely expands up from the ground. That's gas behaviour, and that's where it's created. And obviously we've got gas all the way up to the top of Everest, I hear. Yeah? So it's obviously made its way up. But the rockets can continue to the moon through a sky vacuum, but the gas what? Chills out of the Kármán line? Burns its bra in defiance of natural law? I'm thinking no, Danny. If rockets can go out into the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum, then so can gas. And it would. We'd have never have developed gas pressure, Danny. There are no trips into sky vacuums with rockets, Danny, because the gas would follow it. Yeah? In line with entropic law? Yeah, the expansion of gas into a volume. PV equals nRT, the second law of thermodynamics. All of these different descriptions of laws, that's laws of nature, things that occur always, would suggest that there isn't a sky vacuum, Danny, because we wouldn't have any gas pressure to breathe. But rockets can go into the area the gas isn't. No, Danny, this is all a fantasy. Yeah, you thinking that men go to heaven in little penis rockets? Sacrilege.
They went over that donut part for the most part, so they avoided the most intense part of the Van Allen belts.
Really, Danny? So
Right.
if we take this area here to be 10 to the minus 17 torr sky vacuum, and we take this circular sphere Earth devised from elevation angle measurements to Polaris within the centre of it, you know, angles from hell, Danny, you remember? Yeah? Well, then we could suggest that we're on the outside edge of a protractor when we measure outside angles of the protractor and call them a globe. And then we could suggest that we're stood on the outside edge of the protractor we measured in hell. For you, Danny. When we did so, we'd have a very severe problem, though, because the gas that we're all breathing on this now outside edge of a protractor would just disperse into the sky vacuum at 10 to the minus 17 torr. There's nothing protecting the gas to keep it at pressure, Danny. Now, the sky's not a vacuum, Danny. I mean, a minute ago, you were describing how, what, a rocket comes out into the sky vacuum and off to moon? No, the gas would do that, Danny. Yeah, we'd all be dead. We'd have never have developed gas pressure in this nonsensical world where you can get angles we measure in reality from the centre of hell. Yeah, this isn't a real world, Danny. It's just nonsense. Gas fills space. Rockets don't go to a space we haven't got because we're at pressure.
There were concerns about that back then, and there are concerns about.
Is he trying to say there's an invisible container called gravity?
No.
I've heard that claim.
No, he
Something
inferred that.
similar to that.
He inferred that after declaring that gas go down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. You know, there must be a force for gas go down, go boom, boom that it doesn't do.
That today. I know it.
Do you recall me saying that he hasn't got puddles of farts? Because there's a force that must be there for the puddles of farts we don't experience.
At least
I was
one of the
tying it to
Apollo
somebody else's
astronauts.
claim.
Say that again. Sorry, I started the video. Go ahead.
I said I was tying it to somebody else's claim. I shouldn't have done that. Let's stick with Danny.
Developed, I forget his name now, I have to look it up. But he went to the moon and.
No, he didn't. No. Gas would expand into the area that they'd have to travel through to get there.
He was one of the Apollo 13 astronauts. And
liars. Yeah, they're liars, Danny. One of the few people we can categorically say without question are liars. Why? Well, because there isn't a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum for these liars, they call astronauts, to claim they've travelled through and what, passed by the gas that isn't expanding in line with entropic law? No, Danny, no. Do you remember that question you asked, or were asked by Nathan Thompson about how you can have gas pressure without a container? Well, after a very prolonged period and lots of sound bites of you not answering him, you've explained that the reason for that is because there must be a force pulling your farts into puddles. There isn't, Danny. That's not an answer. This doesn't overcome the problem. For the flat earth answers that you've got, yeah, it's sad.
And he developed later
Well,
on
he does
a
have
type
flat Earth answer.
Say again?
He does have flat Earth answers. He says the gas is being pulled down. That's something an Ethereum can assert because they accept it's an inertial plane. He doesn't. He can't use down. He's given flat Earth answers.
It's a good
not
point.
Globe answers.
Yeah, you shouldn't be using down. You know, in and out on spheres and no reference to horizontal or vertical. You're not going to get any of these things. To describe down, I mean, we obviously do because we can describe gas pressure gradients within the obviously contained system that we must have to have the gas pressure at gradients. And when we describe those gradients, we describe them with respect to sea level. Because you need horizontal planes to describe these things at altitude, like the gas pressure gradients, coming from the antecedent consequent relationship that is gas pressure and containment, that we must have in order to develop the gas pressure for the farts, making you stinky and dirty, to expand throughout the contained gas that we must have. dispersing as they do. Out, up, away from the ground, where you produce them.
Cancer that is associated, very rare cancer, associated with that kind of radiation exposure.
Oh, is
So
that
the
right?
question arises, if he hadn't gone to the moon, would he have had that cancer? Of course,
Really? Is this now a new standard? Talk about a non sequitur fallacy. If cancer, then moon travel. Really? I can't quite believe my ears, frankly. That's a new one on me. Shout out
Well, if
to
the emperor
Duncan
was
MacLeod.
Nathan,
Just do a quick shout out. Shout out to Duncan MacLeod. He says, globs think up and down are the same thing. It's more like in and out, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Go on, John.
John, is that a
well,
slippery slope fallacy?
yeah, it kind of is. If you give them up and down as in and out, that is a slippery slope because they can take your flat plane away from you and pretend it's a globe.
Yep. They can pretend that in and out are up and down with respect to curves, and they're not. No, you need a horizontal plane of reference to describe your plumb bob to give you up and down.
clear conditions for hundreds of miles, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Now, he goes on to point out by the time you get to 50,000 feet, it's much more obvious. And by the time you get to
Did he say there were
60,000 feet, it's
clouds
downright
up
unavoidable.
Come again?
He just said there was clouds up there. I thought they were falling down.
Yeah, what's with the clouds, Danny? Surely the gas is going down, go boom, boom.
And people who flew the Concorde, it would fly almost 60,000 feet. They regularly recorded the dark sky and the curvature of the Earth that they saw.
No, they didn't, Dan. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959, every distance to that horizon you're now claiming is an Earth curve edge, debunked by the Black Swan. You see, it's just so disingenuous to have to lie about what we say and then immediately invoke Earth curve physical hills getting in the way. I mean, it is kind of pathetic, Danny, but that's what you need to do. Gotta lie to glurf. And to glurf and claim horizons are Earth curve hills, you need to deny what we say when we debunk them in the Black Swan, don't you, Danny? Oh, it all makes sense now.
Oh, and I've talked
Yeah.
to a B-52 navigator, flew the thing many times, and it went to 55,000 feet or more. And she said she frequently saw the curvature of the Earth.
You saw a hill at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, like a geometric physical hill.
Sorry.
No, she didn't, Danny. No, we debunked it in 2020. It's a shame you couldn't paraphrase back the argument that we've used to debunk it, but there we go. You're a liar. Can't help that.
He also said
say-
that you went a certain height above surface level as well. That's with respect to a flat
missed
plane.
that.
That ain't going to help you either.
Kudos. Missed that. Sorry, what's that you say? He was at how many thousand feet? 50,000 feet? What, off surface level? The height with respect to the sea level that you give the measurement to? That's interesting. That'll need a flat Earth, Danny, to give that height for the altitude of the plane. Off sea level.
Did he? Sorry, I thought you were finished. Did he say a lady who flew a B-52
Something like that.
and she saw the curve of a globe Earth, but never accounted for when she was flying?
Oh, fill us in. What do you mean? How could you infer such things?
Well, if you were to fly over a curved surface and hold an altitude, then you'd have to account for the curvature of the surface, because your altitude would be based off of each point along that surface.
Yeah.
So when you fly, like in any direction, if that surface is dropping away from you, for the only way for you to hold an altitude would be to, follow that surface, but keep an exact distance away from it. But to do that, you wouldn't have any lift, because you can't generate lift with a below horizontal pitch. Well, you can generate some lift, but not very little. You're careering into the ground, basically. So I just find it strange, that this lady was able to fly without lift and also follow the curvature of the Earth via her altitude, without having to account for any of it.
No. Well, I'm glad you
While
explained
flying
because you're
level.
wrong. No, planes don't do that. Planes fly with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, which they know how high they are above sea level, and they fly nose up with respect to that horizontal plane of reference to maintain the lift that they do definitely have, because planes can fly, Brian.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all
I've
right.
mixed it up.
It's all right.
Hold
You're a
on,
dumb
every
flat
flight I
earther.
took
You're a
leveled
dumb
off.
flat earther and don't understand how, you know, they have to fly nose up and fly with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, which they definitely do. They're not flying with respect to a void that opens up ahead of them at 8 inches per mile squared. They definitely haven't got any void opening up ahead of them, because they'd have to follow around and fill the void, because otherwise they'd go into space, wouldn't they? But they don't go into space. The ground carries on along nicely underneath them, horizontal and parallel with how they fly with respect to the height, with respect to sea level, which is extending out horizontally on a flat Earth. That's why planes can fly, Brian. But you're okay.
I get it now,
You
Nate.
wouldn't
I'm
know.
sorry, I've mixed it all up. And
You
now
did.
I feel wiser.
But I don't blame you, given what Danny was explaining with his
Yeah, it just
B-52.
wasn't the way he explained it there. It meant that the lady was flying without lift and she wasn't accounting for the curvature or rotation of the globe Earth.
Yeah, I'm glad we've got this cleared up, because now Danny can, stop misleading people about planes flying over a spherical surface when they don't do that. Planes fly over a plane, Danny? Shocking, isn't it?
And she wasn't just seeing things here. So you don't have to go up 50 miles. You can.
It wasn't just seeing things. What, like the horizon? It'd be nice if you clarified your claim. Your hyperspecificity isn't particularly on point today. But there we go. The horizon. What, Earth curve? A hill, Danny. She just saw the hill getting in the way. The Earth curve hill. No, we debunked it, Danny. 2020. Black Swan.
He keeps saying going up. I don't think he understands.
If you take a automobile a headlight a mile away, it's too small for your eye to resolve, but you can see.
Well, then bye Earth curve. So hashtag shit
Yep.
shrinks, Danny. Not in Earth curve maths, my friend. No, you don't have any assertions of things reducing in angular size. You've just got the distance and the size in feet and inches, which doesn't change with distance in your maths. That asserts Earth curve when deriving a point below the horizon. A point below surface level, my bad, which is flat.
Headlights for miles.
That's right.
And so just because it's very far away and very small appearing, it doesn't mean the light is invisible at that point.
Great
And that's a common.
Did he just say just because the light is very small and not seen, it doesn't mean it's invisible?
He's talking about the ISS, and people are asking why. How can you see ISS 250 miles up in the sky? So he's giving an explanation how you can see it.
Away
Well,
and very
let me tell you
small.
something. Just very quickly. Not that I give a damn about the ISS, but my friend saw the ISS with his naked eye only a while back. He said it to me. Like, the ISS is about the same length as a 747. And the 747 is pretty small, it's 6 miles up. And if the ISS was as far away as they say it, it's whatever the hell it is. This is just for a laugh.
About the
Then
size
that
of a
would
football
make it
pitch.
So small. What?
About the size of a football pitch.
Yeah, but if it's 10,000 miles away, what size is it to the observer? Pretty small. You won't be seeing it with your eye, that's for sure.
Appearing, it doesn't mean the light is invisible at that point.
Great
And
illustration.
that's a common mistake they're making here.
Yeah. Great illustration. Yep. That's absolutely true.
No, it is not. If
So-
something's beyond the angular
What?
resolution limit of visibility, then it is invisible. Not, well, just because it's beyond the angular resolution limit doesn't mean you won't see it. Yeah, that's precisely what it means. Wow. Why did you agree? Do you have the slightest idea how perspective works with angular resolutions? Give us the Rayleigh formula. Next.
No, that was not my intent.
Danny was a
That's
Christian
Next.
an
like you.
important point. I don't really try to convince.
Go on, Neil.
Sorry, I know you started. I said he agreed because Danny's a Christian like him. He can't tell a lie.
Mm.
But you weren't able to convince any of them?
No, that was not my intent.
Yeah.
That's an important point. I don't really try to convince flat earthers. I'm happy to have conversations with them, answer their questions if they really want to ask me questions.
What, like we really wanted to ask you some questions when you were in the voice chat? It's dangerously close to
That
being
makes
called a
him a
liar
liar.
again.
That's a flat out lie. We've tried to ask him questions and he remains silent. He will not talk to us. That makes him a liar.
And when we put our questions to him via third parties, that would be Nathan Thompson, he also remained silent. So there's no communicating with him.
Yeah.
But I've found for the most part, if a person's really convinced that the Earth is flat, there's not.
No, it's measured that way. You're now paraphrasing this in a way that makes it seem like we're just convinced it's our belief. Convinced? No. It's measured flat. That's not anything to do with me being convinced. Once I saw that there's a measurement for it, that's it. That's game over.
Not much I can do to change their minds.
You don't need to change my mind. You need to show that it's measured curve, and it isn't. The assertion that it's curved comes from the flat Earth measurements that relinquish me of having to declare a belief in this stuff. It's not what I've been convinced with. It's what it's measured as.
I think intervention is early intervention is a key thing.
Is a what you think? What we need psychological help? Do you? That's a backhanded slight, if ever I've heard one.
I think he's implying that we're too far gone, that he can't save us, is what he's implying.
Projection
The
then.
low lives.
That's projection then.
Yeah, but he said early intervention. It's not what they do to little tiny babies when they start introducing the globe to them. And little kids, when they first start, let's say preschool or whatever, then they start introducing them to the globe and gravity. That's an early intervention.
Yeah, precisely, Brian.
And that's who I'm aiming at. In fact, if you'll find a couple of times in my book, I actually say that. I didn't write this book for flat earthers. I wrote it for people who are looking for answers to the questions that flat earthers raise.
Right.
I think that might be it. There might be one more, but I think we may have heard this already.
Answers to the question raised. What, like, where is Earth curve? How do you answer that, Danny? How do you answer that?
But you
didn't
Well, he's
finish,
gonna learn.
go on, Kiwi.
you didn't finish the Black Swan. You only did like 4 seconds, and then everyone went off on 18 different tangents, and then you Jedi mind tricked yourself into thinking you finished it. You
Okay, we'll
didn't.
go back to that one. We'll see if we've done this one, then we'll go back to that.
I've encountered this question many times. There was one time I famously refused to answer the question because
Right, we've had that one already. Okay, so we'll go back to the Black Swan.
they take a screenshot of this photo and saying, see, we see too far, therefore the Earth can't be a sphere, it must be flat. Well, if you watch the video, and I'm sure you have now, I know that I have many times,
Yep.
you will see that he shows in there a photograph that he took of the same oil platforms, but they were obscured as much as you would expect.
As much as you would expect. Wrong. This is a Black Swan as well. Did you not know that?
This is what I was saying to Mush earlier. That when he says it's what you would expect, what he's not saying, he's not claiming it's Earth curve. Right? What he's saying without saying it is that it's the amount of refraction that you would expect based off of a globe's geometric age, mathematical refraction, based off an R value that we never measured on a normal day.
But that's
what
wrong
he's saying.
also. That might be what he's trying to say, and I'll just concede to you. In his mind, he thinks by saying this refracted horizon's what we'd expect to see. I'll just concede that you're correct in what you think he is trying to disseminate to his audience when he says this with this image. But he's still wrong. This is a Black Swan also.
Well, that was my point to see earlier, that they're all not, like, every horizon within their paradigms tend to be consistently refracted. So consequently, there's no such thing as a geometric edge. My point being is that all they can claim is that it's not the globe's edge. That's all they can claim. They have no other claim to make. You know, if you don't understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
but what Brian's saying is what we've got back from them, isn't it, for 4 years? All they can refute us with is saying, well, it's not the Earth curve edge. It's refraction. Well, so not Earth curve then. We keep telling them it doesn't seem to sink in. But Brian, yeah, well summarized.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what they're claiming it is. It's what they're claiming it's not.
Not Earth curve.
Yeah, not Earth curve.
them to be if the Earth is spherical. And also, he puts up text in there, both places on these photographs. He says, on most days, I see this. I see what's consistent with a spherical Earth. But on rare days, not very often, on rare days, I see what looks to be like flat Earth evidence. And on the basis.
That's not what he says. So he's playing the video and putting up what's said and paraphrasing the words on screen.
So that he concluded the Earth is flat. So he.
Yeah, I had to read it quickly. That's why there was a small silence. Go on.
I'm just saying that's not what he says. Like BLMSB, like he's not giving out his exact words.
It's not BLMSB that's made the argument prevalent, though, is it?
No.
The source of the material, the video from BLMSB, is not the modus tollens argument that has made that argument, made that image prevalent in the mind's eye of flat earthers and anti-flat earthers for the last 4 years. It is Quantum Eraser who has made that image infamous, not BLMSB. Now, BLMSB watches the show, and he deserves mad props for the video he produced. And he got mad crap for it too in the comment section. I remember it coming out. Now, I didn't recognise the importance of it. Quantum Eraser recognised the importance of it and formulated it into a modus tollens. Worked on it. Took the source material. That is why we are discussing this. Danny knows that. That's why he's gone to the source and what the source has to say about the image rather than the argument. Scumbaggery. That's all this is. Think for 1 second that we don't recognise that you're essentially subverting the modus tollens when you start referencing what BLMSB 69 did or said in his video. Not relevant. I mean, you could argue against the low-hanging fruit in that regard. Oh, he will, won't he? I just want to hear what QE's got to say about this. You're off mute, but you're not saying anything. I'm eating, I got breakfast on. Oh, well, we won't hear from QE. Who was it that was trying to get a word in?
I was going to respond to Danny's initial statement there that he tries to answer our questions. We're not asking questions, you morons, anymore. We know how Earth's measured. We don't need you to answer any questions. You need to shut up and listen now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought me back on track. It's normally me saying that in 2024. It's no longer a debate. It's no longer a question. We're making our positive assertion based on facts of the matter. In terms of Earth's measurements, in terms of how we deal with it and navigate it and build on it, it's declared by us and them. And we're not asking, we're telling you Earth's measured flat.
I have to say, well said there to refracted.
Yeah.
Because, it's like no one's asking you to answer anything, Danny. Those days are gone. Like, I mean, we'll do it for just to show you up to be what you are. But we don't need you answering anything. You don't have any knowledge that we need outside of some astronomy knowledge that we might be interested in personally or something. Other than that, you don't have anything that any of us need. We have the answers that you don't have.
Yeah, Danny, if you want advanced understanding of your globe earth rhetoric that you believe in, your religion, your faith in globe, heresy, then you can come to us because we'll tell you how the measurements of your globe came to pass. I mean, for quite some time, we were just asking where our values came from for the globe, and none of you guys got off your ass and actually told us where the measurements were used. When we got to Alberuni, we realised they had to get the height of the mountain off a flat plane, and you told us that the horizons were all refracted, so you couldn't get that measurement anymore. Then we found out that the back engineering of a globe came from the flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris. That's how it has to engineer into a globe so you can roll it back out flat for your GPS systems off flat maps. So if you want an advanced understanding of where your religious rhetoric and globe belief came from, you'd have to come to us. We wouldn't be asking things, we'd be telling you. Like I just did. Notice how I just completely stole all credit from John and Brian in one foul swoop with a summary.
He threw out 99% of the data, and he kept maybe 1% of the data, and that's not the way to decide anything, let alone in science. So
In science, just before I do move,
Science.
I'll just give my panel the credit they deserve. My panel are awesome. I'll drop that in. No, not science, Danny. You don't know what science is. QE exposed you for that yesterday. I was listening at the time. You don't know what science is. QE asked you what a hypothesis was, and you didn't know. You're not a scientist. You shouldn't speak on this topic anymore. It's an affront to anybody who does know what science is, including me.
So I've never seen that. I'd love to get a photograph where the I could see too far, but so far I've not been.
Notice how he's got to stutter his way about paraphrasing the actual argument, because he's just come from black swan discussions, hasn't he? At some point in this discussion, he's going to be talking about physical geometric sphere edges for horizons as seen from B-52s, but simultaneously needs to insert his "we see too far" rhetoric. No, Danny. Too far infers as a physical limitation to your view. A hill called Earth Curve, debunked by the black swan. Oh, dear me.
Well, he's just...
Yeah, but he knows damn well we don't say that. He knows damn well we do not say that.
Yeah, but he just told a lie. I didn't see any photograph that shows us seeing too far. Now, obviously, he's referring to his own paradigm, too far for a globe. Yeah, then he presents the black swan. Is that not too far for a globe?
No, it's beyond the
Geometrically?
too far is the image in the summary statement is to say that you see beyond the geometric limitations they claim to be capable of measurement in their Earth curve maths. Not too far. No. I'll give you a story to round out this live show. You've all heard it before, so don't tell me off. About two men sat over an estuary looking at a town across the way. And in the town, you can just make out the clock tower of the town. And one guy says, wow, you can see the clock from here. And the guy next to him says, why, some sort of flat earther? No, that's not a clock. That's a slightly looming, non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the geometric physical sphere edge horizon, now refracted, into a non-geometric position, making it a mirage. We don't really see the clock. It's not really there. The clock's really behind the Earth curve that we don't see because it's refracted. Therefore, mirage. Why, flat earther? And the flat earther responds, all right. I just see it. There's the clock. Now, is the flat earther saying we see too far? No, he is not. He just opens his eyes, sees a clock, and says one word. Clock. What's that? From the globe side of this discussion, when one man says one word, clock, because he sees it with his own eyes. Not too far. Not, look, there's a clock, we shouldn't see it. Now, that's the globe earthers' rhetoric. No, not a clock, not really there. Don't believe the evidence of your own eyes. It's a mirage. Because Earth curve should be in the way. It just isn't. We're seeing too far. Shouldn't really be there, the thing you're seeing with your own bloody eyes, says the globe earther. No, Danny, we wouldn't assert that we see, quote, too far. No. We lay down the maths of your Earth curve edge horizon and then debunk it with a black swan so that you can't even paraphrase. Anybody got anything else to add before I ask people to stay tuned if they are watching on an after show?
I would like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to point out that their refraction is actually measured from a flat plane and then calculated onto a sphere. So they're measuring a flat plane, then they're applying refractive indexes from a flat plane and somehow coming to the conclusion that, yep, that's a sphere. That it
You see,
sounds
Danny,
stupid.
that's an
but that's
answer.
what it is.
Sorry, John.
It's not.
I just wanted to say that's an answer.
Well, it's not even an answer. It's a statement of fact based on what we do with Earth. Earth is measured flat, right, John? It's not a question. It's not an answer to a question. It's a statement of fact. Do you want to reiterate your statement of fact just for Danny's benefit?
Right. When you say refraction, Danny, what you're actually talking about is measurements from a flat plane that you've taken geometric considerations with.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned. as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as an Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member to watch all those yummy videos that I've just produced, and all that good stuff. Obviously, a massive thank you to today's Discord and Jeepers panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!